Welcome back. In this video, we're going to continue our intro to programming using JavaScript. And for this one, we're going to look at an array and how to create an array in JavaScript. So an array is just a great way to hold a bunch of data. So this is a data structure where instead of having, say, 100 variables that hold different things, we can have one array and they can hold what we call indexes or indices. And each one can be a different value. The nice thing about JavaScript is you can hold numbers, you can hold characters, you can hold strings, you can hold anything in these. And like other things in JavaScript, we don't have to define it as a specific data type, so we can just use bar, what we've been using in these tutorials. So I can call this whatever I want. I'll call it my array. And simply use square brackets to define an array. So this right here will say that my R is an array. It is an empty array, so there's nothing in it, but you could actually add stuff to it. In a later video, we'll look at how we can do this using methods, but for now, we'll do it just manually. Another thing you could do, let's create a couple arrays. We'll call this one my R2. We'll call this one 1. And we'll create one more called var my array 3. So we can set these all to different things. So the first one's empty. The next one we can populate. If we already know the numbers we want or the values we want, we could do something like 8, 6, 7, 5, 3, 0, 9. And then for the other one, we can do strings. So we could do names. So we can have Bob, Sue, Joe. And you'll notice that as I put these in, these will be separated by commas. Jim and good old Abe. So for the first one, it's numbers. The second one, it's strings. It could be a mix of either. So you can have strings and names mixed in. So you can have a little of both if you wanted to. And again, we'll look at how to use methods to remove and add things, especially from the middle or beginning of these lists. So if you wanted to change something, or if you wanted to access something in this list, the way that you would talk about these is you would say the array itself, and then you would say what index it is at. So currently, the first array has a length of 0. This one has 7 things in it, and this one has 5 things in it. So we'll talk about length as well in the next video. But a very important thing to know in JavaScript is it is a 0 indexed language. So 8 and Bob, these are actually at index 0. And if there's 7 things, the last index would be 6. So it goes from 0 to 6, which is 7 things. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And for this one, it would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So even though there's 5 elements, the last thing is 4, which is important to remember. So if you wanted to print, so just using a simple alert again, just to see how it works. If you wanted to print something from, say, my array 3, and you wanted to print the second thing, you could say print whatever is at index 1. So Bob would be at 0 and Sue should be at 1. So notice you say the variable that the array is stored in, and then square brackets, and then this should be an integer with whatever index. So if I save this and I run it, it will then say Sue. So my array at index 1 should be Sue. And you can try this again. You could say my array 2 at index 6. So this should be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I run this and I did it correctly, this should say 9, which it does. You could check to see what happens if you try to say 7. Some languages will crash your program. JavaScript will just say undefined. So it's outside of that. So you have not defined that. The nice thing is it doesn't actually crash your program. What you can do as well is you can actually add something to the array this way. So you could do 2 things. You could say my array, the first one, my array, which is empty. You could say at index 0, actually assign a value of hello there. And then we could test it out by printing it, alerting it. Alert my array 1. And the nice thing about this as well is if you just print the name of the array, the variable it's stored in, then it will print everything in it. And then you could do the same thing for my array 2, and you can simply say something like my array 2 at index, let's say 2 equals, we'll just put in this so it's obvious that we put it in there. And then we'll print out array 2 as well. So if I refresh this, it will say hello, because now this is the only thing that is contained in array 1. So we added this to the first element. So now it has a length of 1. And then the next one will say 86. And then I inserted this into where 7 was. So since there was something already there and I stored it over it, it erased or got rid of what was already there. So now this replaced 7. We'll see in the next video when we talk about methods how we can shift everything over. But in this case, you can just change it or add to the end. And that is a quick intro to arrays. And next video, we'll look at methods and properties. And we'll look at those in string classes, the math class, and the array class as well.